everyone. This is Christine Hotchkiss with Stories of Hope, and welcome. I want to welcome my guests, Anna, Michelle, and Cam. Here I talk about grief, hope, inspiration, transformation, forgiveness, and celebration of life. September is the month for National Recovery, Suicide Awareness, and Mental Health. And today our topic is about recovery and addiction. So we're going to start out with Cam, and I want to ask you to give me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I've been sober for a couple of years. Actually, the beginning of this month was 3 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And then I don't know, it was a rough road to get there. You know, it took a lot of turbulence. You know, I had like a pretty normal childhood. You know, my parents were together most of my life, and you know, very active and involved. And something happened when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I just decided to. It was like a decision that I made. I was like, I just wanted to go do other things, you know, and it looked a lot like, you know, getting high and, you know, engaging in a lot of, you know, behaviors that I shouldn't have. And then it just progressed to the point, you know, by the time I was, you know, 23, 24, where I started getting in a lot of trouble. That lot of trouble led me to the prison system. And then the prison system didn't rehabilitate me whatsoever. You know, I actually got in a lot of trouble while I was there too. And then when I got out, something happened. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but you know, I found recovery, and you know, life's been a little different since then.
So, as a parent, we always tell our kids, "Don't do that." Was that one of the things you heard as you were growing up and made you think, oh, what do you mean don't do that? I'm going to see what I can do with them saying no.
Are you just talking about, like, we're talking about, like, getting high and, like, engaging?
Yeah, like stay out of, we've heard it all, you know,
yeah. Stay
away from drugs. And I think there's more to be said when don't do something versus, well, why not? I'm going to show you I can.
I don't even remember it was like, I don't even think that was like an actual conversation, you know, like
okay.
I grew up with DARE. In like the elementary school, it was like, you know, a cop came in and like talked to you, like, you know, about the adverse effects of like using marijuana and all the other stuff, you know. And I just and my parents weren't like, hey, you shouldn't do that. Like, I think they just kind of like assumed that I wouldn't. I'm not even sure. Like, I don't even remember like them being like, this is no good. Like, you know. But I knew it was wrong because of, you know, the values that had been instilled upon me since I was a kid.
Okay.
Like, I knew I was doing something I wasn't supposed to.
Okay, so
pretty early on.
So there's a stigma that people say, well, it's bad kid, probably bad parenting.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean there are okay, so I'm not a product of a bad environment.
Okay.
You know, I mean
okay.
I grew up in Prescott, Arizona, like it was, you know, the suburbs, and
beautiful place.
Like, yeah, like I said, my parents were together, you know, until I was like 16 or 17 years old, and
okay.
I mean I had everything I needed growing up, you know. It's just something happened. I don't know if I was looking for something different or if I just felt uncomfortable. I don't even know. Like, a lot of people who are in recovery can identify like why they started like using drugs, but I really can't. I stumbled upon it, and I didn't stop.
Was it some friends at school? Was it?
Yeah, I met this kid I was growing up with. We were like 14. We had the same bus stop in freshman year, and that was the first time I ever started, you know, using drugs when I was 14. And but it wasn't because of my parents. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, he was just like, here you go. And I was like, great.
Okay.
And then, you know, 9 years later, I'm getting out of prison. You know, it just happened like that. I can't even explain it, you know.
I was one of those parents that said, I already know what you're doing. So until you do something that I think I need to stop you from,
right.
Then you know what? You'll have to make your own decision. Half the time I didn't really know, and my son will tell you that now. He's like, I knew, and I'm like, no, you didn't. So, you know, there's that stigma of saying, well, it must be bad parenting, and
right.
and I want to break stigmas, and there's so many different stigmas and so many different things. So that's why I ask you,
yeah.
Was that something to do with your parents telling you, no, don't do that because, and not give you a reason what the because was? Because
right.
I was raised with the, don't do that,
yeah.
And I'm the, well, why?
Exactly, yeah.
And then I'd be told, you can't do that. And I'm still this person, well, I'm going to show you I can. Within reason, of course, and right. Self-respect. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I am married to the most wonderful man in the world for 32 years.
Wow.
We have 4 beautiful children, 2 amazing stepsons, 3 daughters and 1 son. I was privileged to be a stay-at-home mom until my youngest daughter started high school. And then I went on to become a medical assistant. I worked primary care for several years, and then I went on to become or work with high-risk obstetrics, my very favorite job, and I did that for many years.
I'm not sure what that is.
High-risk obstetrics is for women that have multiple pregnancies, or I'm sorry, several, like twins, triplets, quadruplets.
Oh, okay, okay.
Or who have had multiple losses. I did that for many years, and then my husband and I owned our own business for 5 years.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with my kids. We did a lot of family time together all the time.
Okay, sounds like a Cameron story, a good family bonded together.
Yes.
Was that saying, the family that plays together stays together?
Right.
We did a lot of that too. Thank you,
Yes.
Michelle. Anna, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Anna Rittenhouse. I am a native of Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Grew up here. Mom, dad, 2 sisters. Did not have idyllic childhood, but it wasn't a bad childhood.
Okay.
I myself never became addicted to anything. I, did as everyone did. My folks told me not to drink, not to do drugs, be safe, and a number of other categories that don't apply to this that not to do.
Okay.
And
we'll do those after.
yeah, well, but I ended up having 3 children. Stepson and 2 sons that became addicted to alcohol and crystal meth and heroin. And so I have been on a journey with addiction since 1989, and also with recovery.
Okay.
Over the last 12 years in particular. We lost our oldest son
I'm sorry.
to alcohol and manic depression. He committed suicide 18 years ago.
So I have to stop you
So-
because I'm and Michelle knows this, I'm very particular about when we lose a loved one. What is your son's name?
Our Jared.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
our Jared, yes. We speak his name
All the
every
time.
day. all the
I'm a
time.
stickler
Yeah.
for it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for that reminder. And he was a wonderful man. He couldn't fight off his demons.
Okay.
And so at age 30, he took his life, his own life. And it's a great loss. He's missed by all of us. And his son is now 21 years old, our beautiful grandson Tyler, and he's doing great in his life. So very grateful. And our other 2 sons, our middle son is clean from crystal meth. He has relapsed over periods of time. He's doing okay today. Our youngest son is over 6 years clean and sober from opiates and IV heroin, and he is doing fabulously well. His own business and
Good for
beautiful
him.
woman in his life, and yeah.
A good balance.
Things are good. Things are good.
Good,
yeah.
good. So you and I had actually met on Sunday at a function. It's Tam, the addict's mom.
Yes.
There was a Light of Hope ceremony.
Mhm.
Could you tell our audience more about what that is?
Absolutely. Every year, the Addicts Mom hosts an event called Lights of Hope. And it is to bring awareness to the opioid and other drug addiction crisis in the United States, in the world. We have an online Facebook community and a fan page that's public, and state groups that are closed, every state of the U.S. We have subgroups that address specific sectors of the population: siblings, dads, parents raising pregnant, addicted daughters, grandparents raising their grandchildren. We have an advocacy group. We have a medicated assisted treatment group, harm reduction. We have something for everybody. Spiritual Moms, which is a new group, which is wonderful.
Understood.
Minors,
Yeah.
parents of minors with substance abuse disorder. We also have an online Facebook community in Canada, and we have a new international group as well.
Wow.
So every year we host this event for the last 11 years
Okay.
since this group was founded. And we bring in agencies for the public, information, resources. We have wonderful speakers every year. Michelle and Cam were actually speakers at our event this year, and it just brings great hope to people who are struggling through this with their loved ones. They can't imagine as far down the rabbit hole as their loved ones have gone that they could ever come out of it, and we do see stories of hope.
I'll have to admit, I don't know anyone that's addicted to these drugs. I was moved when I walked into the church, and it was a function. I was here in Chandler, and there were, how many did you say agencies?
34.
34. So I know some of them because of the organization I work for. We work with them as well.
Oh,
and
great.
to go in there to support my friend Michelle, I was like, what is this? I want to know more about it. And I was very moved by the speakers. There was some comedy, and then there was some tears, and then there was like, oh. And so with that being said, Cam was one of the speakers. And do you want to share a little bit about more about your story as far as what you shared with everyone in the audience?
Okay, so one of the things I like to share, like is specifically at that capacity, like when I'm talking like a room full of parents, I like to really hit home the fact that it's not the parents' fault, right? Because if you listen to Anna, you listen just all over the place. You know, you hear all these parents and like all the things that they go through and like the turbulence that they experience. Like from it's not even their lives; it's their kids' lives and like all the destruction that they cause. You know, and I know personally that I caused a lot of destruction in my parents' life. You know, I manipulated my mom into doing a lot of things, like taking me out of school, and you know, her and I, you know, actually started getting high together when I was like 15 years old, and you know, I kind of put a wedge between her and my dad, and I was just such a wreck, you know, and I kept stealing and I kept, you know, getting high. And so like one of the reasons that I like going there is because I like to it's an opportunity to tell the parents that it's not their fault, you know, because especially, you know, I mean, dads too, but like moms, you know what I mean? It's just so crazy being able to go talk to a room full of moms and be like, yo, it's not your fault. Like it's,
because we do take a lot of that on.
Well, yeah, they all do. Like we all do for the people that we love, you know, we always try to like take on this burden of like where we failed, you know, and that's not just with kids and it's not just with drugs, like that's just us as humans because, you know, for the most part, like people are pretty decent, you know, and they have like that sense of responsibility. And I just like to go and tell them, you know, like it's not your fault, you know, like I made my own decisions, you know, like my parents raised me right and I opted to go another route and there was nothing they could do to stop me, you know. As soon as you hit a certain age, like there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop your kid. I don't have kids of my own, but I know that from like my experience.
You know there's a curse with that, right?
No, I don't.
You haven't heard the curse of being a parent?
No.
What you did comes back to you
tenfold. No, I haven't heard that, no.
You don't have kids, but if you do, keep that in mind.
Okay, yeah. I'm in for it then. I'm in for it, yeah. So.
And you don't have to answer this question. I always tell people just because someone asks you a question does not mean it requires an answer.
Okay.
Okay, so
okay.
I'm giving you that. Your relationship with your parents. I understand you had mentioned when we were at the event on Sunday that your mom had passed away.
Yeah. So my mom died March 15th of 2010. She was sick for a long time, and I think like her drug use also played into a huge factor into that. My dad didn't talk to me for years. You know, he didn't talk to me because, you know, like I said, like I was stealing, was doing a lot of things I wasn't supposed to, and he just cut me off. He just stopped talking to me. Wouldn't, you know, he'd answer the phone, you know, what do you want? You know, it was real quick conversation. I'm very fortunate because regardless of what was going on, regardless of the circumstances or how my dad felt about like how I was behaving, he always said I loved you. Right? It was always I love you and then I hang up. You know, it was never before that moment. It was always I love you and then he hung up. And I remember the day I stepped out of prison, right, I went to the Greyhound station and I picked up the phone and I called my dad for the first time in years, you know, and he was basically like, I'm glad you're okay, what do you want? You know? And over the last 3 years, it took a lot of work, you know, and, you know, phone calls and, you know, just putting in effort, right? And like not only like saying like, hey man, I'm sober now and like I'm not gonna be doing these things anymore, but like it really took him to see the change in me, and that's really like what made our relationship a lot stronger, you know. And another thing is like my dad's also in recovery. He's been sober longer than I've been alive. And so he knows what it takes, and what like being sober or being, you know, a recovered person looks like, you know. So he had like a pretty low tolerance for some of the things that I was doing. Yeah, he already knew, and he knew the importance of like of not engaging with me whatsoever and letting me find my own experience, because like he knew there was nothing he could do until I was ready, until I, you know, decided to make a change.
I want to say that's tough love, but I'm not quite sure if that's really the right thing to say. But with you having said your dad has been in recovery for a while, it's like you said, he already knew what he had gone through, and he knew that you're going to have to figure out your own path. And I'm sure it was a very difficult thing for him to deal with, but that was what he had to do.
It's funny that we've never talked about it.
No,
it's just
now's the opportunity.
I know, you got me thinking about it. It's so crazy. I always think about these great questions when I'm in like doing something like this. I'm like, oh, I gotta go talk to my dad about this.
Okay, well now we'll be able to share with him, because he can see it on social media if you want to share it to him. Michelle, you have talked about your children, and you are a recovering addict. You have not been a part of it, but you have family members that were. Michelle has a different story as the mom that you were talking about. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
And you have two angels.
I do.
Please talk about them.
I have lost 2 of my children to a heroin overdose. My firstborn daughter, Brianna, everyone knew her as Breezy. March 14th of 2013, I found her in her room with the needle still in her hand. I called 911 immediately, began CPR. The police were at my house within 2 minutes, but fire did not get to my house for 10 minutes. They made me go out of her room. It seemed like they worked on her forever. They came back out and told me that she could not be revived. She was gone at 24. And then I have a son, my third born, Chandler. His sister turned him on to heroin when he was 18. He immediately started going in and out of jail. He started robbing homes to support his habit. And at 20, he got sent to prison for 3.5 years. Breezy overdosed while he was in prison. And as you can imagine, prison is no place to grieve and have closure of your sister's death. He was out of prison about 4 weeks when he got pulled over, and I don't know why they searched his car, but they found burnt foil in his car. And he was sent back to prison for violation of parole for 10 months. He was out of prison the second time, and I found crushed pill residue on the bathroom counter and a Xanax pill on my 5-month-old granddaughter's bedroom floor. And I called the police and had him removed from my home, which was a very hard thing for me to do because I didn't believe in tough love anymore. But I couldn't have drugs around a baby. And he moved out, was living with a friend, had gotten a job, and I thought he was doing really good. We talked every day. And 2 weeks later, he called me crying, said he needed my help. He was going to go back to prison. He was using heroin again. I spent all day on the phone looking for a rehab. I found one in Prescott that accepted our insurance and had a bed available immediately. And we took him to Prescott the next morning on his condition that he was going for 30 days. 30 days turned into 10.5 months. The owner told me that he was the best client they had ever had. He respected everybody, everybody respected him. There wasn't anybody that could meet him that didn't fall in love with him. A lot of the clients there were here from Phoenix, and their moms would go up there and they would fall in love with him. A lot of those moms are TAM moms, and I know a lot of them, and they miss him very much. He was going to AA. He had a great sponsor. And he had told us several times that people that were on the verge of relapsing had come to him. We thought Chandler had this demon beat. We didn't think we would ever bury a second child. And then on April 26th of 2016 was Breezy's 28th heavenly birthday. and we did a friend and family gathering and did a balloon release from her favorite mountain. And Chandler and his best friend from rehab drove down from Prescott. And he was in such a good mood. He was dancing, singing on the mountain, making sure that everybody was in a good mood. And he drove back to Prescott right away. And on April 29th, my daughter called me and she said, "Mom, what's going on with Chandler?" I said, "Nothing as far as I know, honey. Why would you ask?" She said, "In the last 15 minutes, 8 people have posted on his Facebook page, 'Rest in paradise, and I hate this disease.'" Yeah.
That's tough. And to find it out on social
To-
media.
Can you, I don't even know, you're not supposed to find out your child's dead on Facebook.
No. No.
So I immediately called the house supervisor, and he didn't answer, but he called my husband's phone right back and asked if we were sitting down. He put his phone on speaker, and he said Chandler was found dead in his bathroom. There was burnt foil, a straw, and a lighter found on the bathroom counter. He died smoking heroin. And I had told Chandler when he told me he was using, I said, "You're gonna die." He says, "No, Mom, you can't die smoking heroin. You can die smoking heroin."
Thank you for sharing. That's heavy. Sorry, that's really heavy. I love leaving the show, closing the show with one question, because if you know me, it's all about Remember Me, or Remember Me Always is my nonprofit organization based on the loss of my daughter, Nicole. We were in an auto accident and she was ejected from the vehicle that we were in. I don't place blame on anybody or anything. What happens, happens. So one question, and we'll make it brief, is what legacy do you want to leave? I'll start with you, Anna.
Well, it's been clearly defined to me in the last number of years that my legacy through all of this is to be certain that people have information, that people have resources, that people have support, that people know that it's okay to speak about addiction, that we do not have to be in shame about it anymore. We are losing over 200 people in this country alone every day to overdose deaths. That's just opiates and heroin. That does not include any other substance. So I want people to know that there's help, and that's my daily.
And at the end of the show, you can contact me. My email address will be available if you want to speak or get in touch with any of my guests or the organization that we spoke of, which is TAM. And again, we'll be brief. So Cam, what legacy would you like to leave?
Oh man, that's, I mean, you know, and you gave me the question, you know, and like I still
I
still
gave
can't.
you the quiz.
Yeah, you did. I'm trying to answer it, but like, and be transparent at the same time, but like not vain, you know. It's just, I don't know. I really, it's funny, is like, cause the relationship with my dad that I had growing up was very, I didn't like my dad, to put it very softly. And I look at him now and the way he took care of my mom when she was sick and had cancer, and now, you know, obviously she passed, and now my stepmom is, you know, has lupus, and he's still like working every day, and he still takes care of my stepmom, you know. And if I could become like half the man that he is, right, and have like half as much integrity and honesty as him, I mean, that's enough.
That's a good honor. We're running out of time, so Michelle, please tell me what your legacy would be.
I have been very blessed to be able to turn my grief into advocating.
Love that.
It has really helped me deal with my
Yeah.
grief.
I think all of you guys qualify.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
And I eat, breathe, and sleep.
Yes, you do. I know you very well. Yes, you do, like I do with my stuff.
Yes, to raise awareness, educate, and stop the stigma.
And that's what this is about.
Yes.
Changing the stigmas.
And I distribute Narcan to reverse overdose, to reverse opioid overdoses. And I want to be remembered
For saving lives.
for saving lives.
Yes.
I want people to think of me and think of Warrior Mama.
Absolutely agree with you. I learned about that at this function, and I was like, what's that? And then I learned more about it, and then, yes, saving lives.
Yes,
One person, one day at a time.
that's right.
Anything else we wanted to add? No?
I just want to encourage anyone who's going through this struggle to reach out to someone. There are meetings all over the valley. We've all been in them. Everyone's sitting at this table. And they're there, and they do help, because we have to get healthy before we can see any change in our loved ones.
Absolutely.
I truly believe that. People do recover on their own, but having a family who's participating and getting healthy is that much greater chance.
Being involved.
Yeah, being
Thank
involved.
you. And thank you guys for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And for coming at the last minute. You're a savior. And thank you for sharing everything,
Thank
all of
you.
you.
Thank you.
Until next time, we will wish you all well. And remember, September is the month of recovery, and the information will be provided in case you want to talk to someone, or perhaps you want to be a guest on my next show. I love new topics. Take care.
The preceding program was brought to you by the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network, HSBN Television.